It has been a contentious second week for the 57th legislative session, with two controversial issues, abortion and immigration, being debated inside and outside of the state capitol. ONR's Ed Murray has reaction from both sides of the aisle.
Abolish! Abolish!
Don't call these folks pro-life. They are abolitionists, calling for Oklahoma to assert state sovereignty under the 10th Amendment and end all abortions. And they came from all over the country. Gene and Alan Cohen live in Washington, D.C.
We're here in support of what Oklahoma is doing. We need Oklahoma to set a fire that's going to spread across the country. They can be the first state to completely ignore Roe, defy the courts. The courts do not make laws.
One of those holding a "the Supreme Court is not God" sign, Edmond's Jacob Hayes.
I have a heart for the innocent people who are being murdered. You know, they're calling it the American Holocaust. The amount of people who are unborn who have been killed, they're calling it the American Holocaust.
Hayes faced off with a much smaller but just as passionate group that calls it a choice. Oklahoma's Lindsay Stanford says she is concerned.
I have fear, or I might not be here. I have feared that we have representatives that even introduce laws that are clearly unconstitutional.
That this greatest evil of our age.
These people over here are preaching. This is not about religion, this is about government. And it's about privacy, a woman's right to control her own body.
SB! SB! SB!
At the center of the debate, Senate Bill 13. Its author, Joseph Silk of Broken Bow, was encouraged by the enthusiastic crowd.
The legislature as a whole got their attention. It was a very good turnout, a very professional turnout. And despite what happens with Senate Bill 13 this year, even if it runs into a roadblock, the momentum is going to continue to go, and they need to look at that as a positive thing.
The first potential roadblock, the same as last year, just getting a hearing in committee. But Silk says he's already had a good conversation with the committee chairman.
And my request of him was just let the political process play out. Let's not let this be one of those things where one person stops a bill, and let's just let the voice of the people actually be heard in this building instead of squelching it out.
House is now in session. Clerk will call the roll.
Over in the House, another emotional topic, immigration. House Bill 3195 directs county law enforcement to hold any detainer request from federal immigration for 48 hours. Orlando Representative John Pfeiffer is the author.
It is my understanding that Oklahoma and Cleveland County were advised they would incur liability since it wasn't language in state law that dealt specifically with this. We're putting that language in state law, which allows them to go back to operating the jails the way they would like to.
Democrats first tried to stop the bill on rule technicalities.
Very clearly, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, I believe you have misinterpreted Rule 6.6b.
Those repeated efforts failed, but confrontations continued into the lengthy question and debate segments. Tulsa Representative Regina Goodwin was arguing the bill could lead to racial profiling when she stopped in mid-sentence.
There's going to be, Mr. Speaker, I notice you're smiling a little bit, and I don't know if this is causing you to chuckle, but there are many.
I was just being polite and smiling at you.
No, you weren't smiling at me.
Chickasha Representative David Perryman called the measure nothing but partisan politics shaped by fear.
Making people believe that if they don't hate, if they don't push back, if they don't take a stand, we're going to be overrun.
The final words belong to the bill's author.
We're not fear-mongering. We're fixing problems. Some of them are big, some of them are bad, some of them that aren't that big, like this bill, we can try to blow up and make huge issues out of. This is a simple bill that fixes a problem.
The bill passed easily on to the Senate by a 78-21 vote. Ed Murray, the Oklahoma News Report.
House Bill 3165 has been introduced in the Senate but has not yet been assigned to a committee.